Hi, I'm Rob, and today we're at the Hatchet Inn in Sherfield English. The Hatchet Inn was built possibly in the 1860s. So that's a Victorian pub in a sort of coaching house style. The walk starts by walking down Mill Lane at the side of the pub, but first we're going to take a very short detour along the main A27. Let's take a look at the church. And there's the entrance there. So this is St Leonard's. It's an Edwardian Gothic church built in around 1902-1903, and it was funded by Lady Ashburton in memory of her daughter, the Marchioness of Northampton. It's also home to the Hampshire Guitar Orchestra. It has a full 8-bell peal, and the foundry in which they were made in Leicester, and that's the famous John Taylor foundry in Loughborough. Apparently the old church would have been somewhere opposite, across the A27. Well, unfortunately the church isn't open, so we can't see inside. But we will be going to another much more interesting church, which I'm sure will be open a little later in the walk. And we retrace our steps from the church back down the main road and turn right into Mill Lane just after the pub. At the pub we turn right into Mill Lane. So this plinth next to the wall, that betrays the fact that this once must have been a dairy farm, because that's where they would have stood the churns, ready for the lorry to collect, take back to the dairy. And this is the old Sherfield mill, and you can hear the water from the race if you listen very carefully. This pretty nondescript little stream is the River Blackwater. It runs for 24 miles, it rises in Redlinch in Wiltshire and forms part of the Wiltshire to Hampshire border actually. It joins the Tess between Totten and Redbridge. And at this point, opposite the duck pond, which you can barely see on the right because it's behind a hedge, which is a shame, it would have made a good picture. Anyway, to the left there is a footpath which we follow. A nicely fresh mown meadow. Now when you come out of the wooded bit, make sure you keep the woods close at hand to the left and don't get diverted off through the fields over there. Yeah, just be careful not to disturb the bees as you come by. Oh, there are lots and lots of hives in amongst the trees on the edge of the field. Now don't take the obvious track, take this one to the left. Now keep on round the edge of the woods. The path on the map shows that it's slightly inside the woods, but there is no path there, so we'll put it down to an Ordnance Survey error and continue walking on this path. Yeah, so as I say, keep to the edge of the woods, and then eventually the path does bear into the woods and become a semblance of what the path says on the Ordnance Survey map. And these woods are very welcome because it's very hot today already. Now we turned right after we came off the footpath. If we'd have taken the wide path to the right, that would bring us to the same point. As it was, we went along that path to the left and through the woods and along the road. There's a little memorial here for Audrey Ann cat and William Reginald cat. So after that little point of interest in Cat's Place, we're going to just carry on straight on up the road that we were walking along. There we go. Nice ripe blackberries, all starting to ripen now. It's September. And for the benefit of Mr. Ward, who didn't know, they're not ripe until they're black. At this junction we take the signpost towards Wellow Church. And those that have seen my videos before, they know that these are staddle stones that the barn sat on, and the theory is it stops the rats climbing up into the barn to eat the grain, so they can't get over the lip. That's the theory, and we'll carry on down the lane. And the road bends round to the left, and that's Nightingale Lake over there, private fishing lake, in case you wondered what all the concentration camp wire was. Anyway, carrying on up the lane. Keep your eyes open for the signs on the left, all facing the wrong way for us. They're actually pointing to St Margaret's Church, which is to the right, and that's where we're going, up this track to the right. And St Margaret's is off to the left, and we're going to go and have a look in there now. This is a very, very famous person laid to rest here. So to give the church its full name, it's St Margaret's of Antioch in East Wellow. It was built in 1215 on the site of an older church. Most of it is 13th and 15th century. Hopefully we'll be able to see inside this one, because it's very interesting. Now this might be a bit of a clue for you. The first thing that strikes you inside the church are the medieval wall paintings. It's a lovely church and very cool as well. But you've got to look harder. There's something else unusual about this church. When I find it, I'll film it. So not something you see every day in the church. There's a musket mounted on this beam up just beyond the altar. Now the story of the musket is there was a once wealthy man who accidentally shot his maid with the musket. Because he'd accidentally shot the maid, the musket was forfeit to the crown, and as was the custom then in this sort of event, the musket was given to the church to hang up on a timber to warn of the dangers of shooting your maid. Or something like that. But that's the story of the musket up on the beam anyway. A lovely big organ. Nice pews, Kate Smythe. There's the answer. This is the burial place for Florence Nightingale. And I'll tell you why shortly. Florence was born in 1820 in Florence, Italy, and she died in 1910 in Mayfair in London. She was a social reformer. She was also a statistician, but she's best known for her monocle as the Lady with the Lamp. And she gained that from her efforts to cure the sick soldiers in the Crimean War. There's a lot of bad hygiene over there, a lot of bad practice. And she went on to reform nursing by teaching hygiene practice and so on, and opening a nurses training centre in St Thomas Hospital in London. Unfortunately, her trip to the Crimea had a bad effect on her. She went down with what was called Crimean fever at the time, and she was bedridden from the age of 38. But she did actually go on to live till she was 90, so that's not a bad innings. And the reason she's buried here is her family lived at Embley Park, which is just up the road in Wellow. So this is our local church. Embley Park is now a private school. There's a very interesting and funny aside actually. We found the memorial plaque for Harold Alton Box, and he was a great nephew of Florence Nightingale, and it's listed here as him being a songwriter. So a quick Google, and the song he wrote was "I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts and a banana, da 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 da." We leave the church with all its history behind and head off for the path to our left. Another interesting aside as well for local people is that Florence Nightingale, her auntie, lived in Fair Oak, which isn't a million miles away from where I live, and their family name was Bonham Carter. So a quick bit of research, and Florence Nightingale's auntie was also the great-great-grandmother of the actress Helena Bonham Carter. Who would credit it? Florence Nightingale, coconuts, and Helena Bonham Carter. You wouldn't put the three together, would you? So this is a nice little bit of Blackwater. Quite pretty. Let's take a little time to listen to the water trickling away. A pleasant little walk through this shaded bit of woodland by the river. So we carry on down the path, and there's a little vineyard off to the right. Come off this path, we should cross the road, which is Fox's Lane, and go straight onto another path. I don't see it yet, but let's have a look. So there's a ford off to the left, but we go right, and after a couple of yards there's a footpath up a couple of steps. That's good, I thought we were going to have problems there. Nice welcome bit of boardwalk. Hampshire Countryside Service has been busy. Very, very thankful for their work. Thank you very much, Hampshire Countryside Services. You make walking a pleasure where it might otherwise be a chore. Although saying that, there's one or two holes appearing in this one, so they don't last long, unfortunately. Wood and damp places, they tend to rot. Just watch yourself going down here. Not what you see every day, abandoned in the woods. Somebody's been scrumping the strawberries that are grown under that polytunnel. And we come off the road, take this footpath on the left. And then we follow the track across the field, head in for the stile, and then the finger post in the distance will take us back on the lane. It's up in the corner, we're not taking either of those footpaths, we've just been on one. We are taking the Kissing Gate to go back onto the lane. That's this lovely little cottage. And from Short's Farm, we turn left onto the road, and that's Step Lake Road, which takes us up, becomes Mill Lane, takes us back to the pub. Look at that, why have I never got a container? They lovely blackberry and apple pie, that one.
Well, that was a great walk, very, very interesting walk, and it was about 4.5 miles. I had to change the map halfway around because a lot of the pathways were overgrown and impassable. So that's one for Hampshire Countryside Services. But anyway, as I say, 4.5 miles. Time now for lunch at the Hatchet Inn. So if you like, then please like and subscribe, and I'm going for some lunch.